Hey everyone, it's Teresa, and today I'm going to share my 20 favorite DIYs for springtime. So go ahead and get comfy, get some projects out for yourself, and let's jump in. First, we're going to start off with one of these rugs from the Dollar Tree, and I went ahead and cut out with my Cricut a stencil for it. This was my first time giving this a try, and you just wait. I was so happy with it. You'll see in just a minute though. So it's just going to be Honey, I'm Home, and it's got some bees in it, and that's pretty much what all of today's projects are like some kind of bee related thing. It was so funny when I first told my husband I was going to do this kind of video. He was like, oh yeah, I get it, because you're Theresa B. And I was like, oh, totally didn't think of it that way, but you're right. That works perfectly. So I was really focusing on getting this stencil vinyl to kind of sit down as best as I could. And then I thought, like, first I was like, well, let me try to go in with a brush. And that didn't work quite so well. So I was like, let me just try to, go in with that. Didn't really work out. And I'm going to end up getting just a little sponge brush. These are from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to pounce all over this. And the paint that I actually used is some Arteza outdoor acrylic paint. So it's specifically made for outside, and I'm hoping that it's going to hold up pretty well. I really liked how thick it was, so it worked really well in that aspect. So I'm going to leave it linked for you below. I got mine off of Amazon. It wasn't sent to me. I bought it myself. But I am going to leave that linked for you below in case you're interested. I bought, I think, like a 30 pack or 24 pack. I can't remember off the top of my head. So this is just the black one that they have, in there in the pack. And I'm going to do that pretty much for the whole thing with the exception of the bee. So what I did is on the bee, I took out the outline part, and you can kind of start to see it here. I took out the outline of the bee first to do that in black, and then I was like, well, I'm going to freehand the other parts of it. And I'll show you in a minute how I ended up doing that, and it worked out really good. So you just, I would probably recommend, I only did one layer of the black. I would recommend doing two. I really wish I had done two, but I was so excited to get this taken off to see how it looks. And I was really, really impressed that it did not have like hardly any bleeding. And then, so once I'm done taking off the main part of the vinyl, I am just going to go in with my little weeding tool and pull off, any of the other stuff, the other little parts that are just making the letters out. And like I said, I was so happy with how this came out. I was like doing my little happy dance off camera, obviously, because you can't see me, but I was just really excited how it turned out. So now once I take off all of these little pieces to the bee, this is important if you do this project, make sure you keep the outline, that you initially took off to make the black. We're going to put that back down when we're ready to do all of the other colors. If you decide to do that, I'll show you at the end how it looked both ways, with the color, without the color. So same thing, just pulling off all of that excess stencil and then getting all of the other little pieces. Obviously this little part up in the corner was a lot easier and faster because it didn't have all the letters and all that. So once that's done, like I said, I tried to do it freehand, and I was like, you know what, let me put the stencil part like back down. So save that if you decide to do this. I liked it with both ways, like without the color and with the color. So it depends on your vibe, if you're going for more bright stuff, if you're going for more neutral, it kind of is nice that this project can, go either direction. And I was really surprised. This little rug carpet thing from Dollar Tree, it is, I believe, a 16 by 24, and it's really thick. So I really like this. I wish it was a plain one and didn't have any of this like pattern behind it, but I was okay with it. So I used kind of more of like a pointier brush for the yellow part and a little bit flatter brush for the white wings. And what I've kind of come to see is I like the flat brush, but you definitely want to pick a brush that's a lot denser. And I'm so sorry if you hear that in the background. Of course, the kids cannot play with anything that doesn't require a lot of noise when I'm trying to do a voiceover. So once I was done with that, I do peel off that little bit, and there you can see the difference, the one with the color and the one without. Just really loved it. right, so for the next project, we're going to start off with one of these little wood houses from Dollar Tree. And I removed everything, and I'm going to paint it in this maze chalk paint from Waverly. And then on the edges, I'm going to do the color ink from Waverly. And this one, of course, is just home is where my honey is. Isn't that adorable? I couldn't get over it. So we're just going to apply that, of course, onto our house. Now the house itself, the yellow, I want to say that's probably about 3 coats, and then it's only 1 coat on the black, because that paint, I tell you what, that stuff is just there. And next we're just of course going to add some twine, because when you don't know what to do, you just add twine to it. So we're just going to kind of roll that around a few times, and then I'm just going to go ahead and give it a quick little snip. And I wasn't sure, I was like, should I do a little bow? Should I do a little something else? So I'm going to add this little bee charm. I want to say I got it from Michael's. It was like $2.50 maybe. So I think it's a cute little touch. And then once we've gotten that secured, I'm just going to go ahead and glue down the twine on the back side of the house, making sure it's good and secure. And we're just going to give it a quick snip, and we will just move on. And I couldn't find my little tool, so I just like, oh, just smudge it with this. And it needed a little something else, so we're just going to add a little bit of greenery and just one tiny little flower, just to give it a little pop of, you know, something to break up that yellow. Because this video, these projects, you will see there is a lot of yellow. So at first I thought just the 1 leaf, then I decided, you know, let me give it an extra leaf. So here is the final project. It's super pretty, super cute. I love it. I just love everything from this video. All right, so I've got this little block of wood. It's roughly like 5 1/4 or so, you know, wide and tall, because it's square. And I did stain it with, and I will list the color of the stain for you below. And I'm going to add this Be Kind with a couple little bee accents here. And I'm just doing the same kind of thing with, you know, just stamping the same little applicator that I used before. And I've got the same color chalk paint, you know, ink from Waverly. And I think that these are all just so sweet and you know, cute and everything. They're perfect for spring, and just can't get over it. I cannot get over this whole theme of the videos. You guys will have to let me know, do you like these videos that are more like one overall theme? Do you like things a little bit different, so you can kind of pick and choose what you like? And I'm going to do my best as well on all of these decals. I designed a lot of them, so if I can link them for you below or show you where I'm going to get it, I will do that. And here's the satisfying moment. I had to zoom it in for you, of peeling off the stencil and getting it nice and crisp. And I just had to share that with you because it's so satisfying. It's so weird, but it's so satisfying. Tell me below, do you guys like to do that too? Is it really satisfying for you when it's nice and it's clean? So after that, we're just gonna, of course, go through, and I'll zoom you. You know, I had to turn up my light so I could see it a little easier. I'm just gonna go through and peel up all of the extra little pieces of the vinyl, just to, you know, make my letters, you know, look like the letters they're supposed to be. So I almost thought, and I should have done it, I was thinking about putting like a word count in here of every time I say the word bee. And then I decided I wanted to distress this a little bit. Originally I wanted to distress the black part, but when I did it across the top part of the wood, the black almost looked like it smeared a little bit. And I mean, that paint had been on there for, you know, at least a day or two. So I was afraid to do it. I'm going to take these 2 new little things of cotton twine from Dollar Tree, yellow and black, because I need to, you know, tie it all in with all the other projects today. And I'm just going to, of course, give it, you know, a nice little spot to sit on the back. And we'll just spin it around a couple of times. I think I did like 4, and I was trying to do almost like a little bit of a like twisting it a little so you could see some of the black, some of the yellow. I think it really stood out really nicely. And then I was like, well, let me do a little knot so it has somewhere to hang. And then I think eventually I just kind of gave up. Yeah, I just gave up. I was like, no, it's not going to happen today. So let's just glue it on and it'll be just fine. And I was like, well, of course I need a little bow. So we're just going to take a few, you know, just a couple inches of the ribbon cotton twine, whatever we're going to call it today, both colors. And I'm just going to do just a cute little shoestring bow, nothing particularly fancy. You guys know I'm not the greatest when it comes to bows. So do that, and I'll just trim off the excess, and I'm going to glue it down, make it kind of look like it's what was, you know, holding it all together. But I wasn't done yet. I had my husband make this for me. He has a 3D printer, so it's just really cute. And he has the file. I'll link it for you below in case anybody has a 3D printer. You could make it too. Here it is, all finished. It's so freaking cute. I can't get over it. I can't get over the cuteness today. All right, so we got these little blocks from Target in the dollar spot. There were 3 of them for $3, so I was happy with it. I just did a full coat of, like, probably 3 coats again of this yellow. And I'm going to take this little honeycomb and I'm just going to find a good spot. I was kind of debating, like, obviously I was debating because I keep moving it. I was debating on where I wanted to put it, if I wanted to put it at an angle, if I wanted to keep it straight. I kind of ended up leaving it pretty much straight-ish, maybe a tiny bit of a tilt. And I am using transfer tape. I know most of the time people are like, oh, you don't really need to use it for stencil vinyl. But I was like, how in the world do you use stencil vinyl without transfer tape and keep all the little pieces in the middle? So I wasn't going to attempt it. Who knows? You guys will have to let me know. Is there a way to do that? So I am going to just go in with that Adirondack white paint. And here we go. Another moment of satisfying, you know, paint peeling backing. I'm just going to, except I'm not going to show you every little bit of it coming off. But there's the outside part. And then I do, of course, remove all of the little octagons in there as well. And now I'm going to distress it. It was a little too stark white. Now, if I'd made them a little thinner, I think I definitely could have gotten away with it, but I didn't want it to be so, like, abundantly white, and I needed a little bit of distressing going on. So I get my handy dandy finger sander. I got it at Target. I'm going to list that for you below. And then I take my handy dandy ladybug vacuum. You know, it's not a bee, but we'll have to forgive it. And we're just going to do this stencil on here, happy as can be. And I totally didn't notice it, but one of the wings wasn't white. I ended up going back and painting it. So I hand cut like those little white parts for the wings. I know I could do it layering on my Cricut, but I just ended up doing it by hand. I figured that was going to probably be a little faster. So here it is. See, I painted it. I fixed it. It's so cute though. Again, so cute. All right, guys, you know how I am with gnomes. If you've been watching me, I'm not very good at them. So for this one, I started off with a gnome. My husband's son, so funny. He's like, you didn't make a gnome. You cheated. You just dressed a gnome. So I'm going to add some of these river rocks to the bottom because this is just a leftover ornament from Christmas. I have a couple more of these, so you never know. You might see more gnomes in the future now that I've decided I can do it as long as I have something to start with. So next, of course, we're just going to seal them shut with our glue gun. And I could have done it with like some needle and thread. It probably would have looked a little bit nicer and a little more finished, but who wants to get that out? So I am just going to use my glue gun just to seal them all up. And then I have this little bit of striped fabric. It's really not even fabric. It came from a little skirt from Dollar Tree in the kids section. I bought 2, don't worry. I bought one for my daughter and one for this project. So she didn't feel like, you know, I was butchering her little costume. So I cut a piece bigger than I think I needed because I've done that in the past and ended up, you know, having to scrap it because it just didn't want to work. And then I'm just going to kind of do a gluing all around, you know, where the hat goes basically. And I actually had to iron this little thing too because it was just all wrinkled, you know, in the packaging and all that. So I'm going to just start draping it along, and then as I go, I'll start to actually trim it down. See, like now I was like, okay, let me go ahead and trim it down. I think I'm safe. And so I'll do that. Trimmed it down, and now I'm going to trim the other side. I'm like, okay, I'm safe. I'm going to trim down the top. And I'm not really worried about making a really nice clean line on, you know, these. I'm going to make it more of like a faux seam in the back anyways. It's a very loose interpretation of a seam. So I'll fold it over just to try to make it look a little bit nicer, and just basically just keep adding glue wherever you can, wherever makes the most sense to try and hold it all together. This poor little guy is just held together by river rocks and glue and hot glue sticks. but it's okay. He'll end up really cute. You'll see in a minute. And just basically continue that all along the way, and I'm going to just kind of fast forward you through just so we can get to the reveal of this little guy. I do want to show you how I finish off the hat. I'm basically just folding over and kind of bringing it to like one little spot in the center-ish area of his head area. So we'll just basically keep doing that, and I'm folding it kind of as I go, and then here he is. It's kind of skipped through it, but you get the basic idea. So now, of course, our little bee gnome needed to have some wings. So this is just a little headband. It's the same like collection. I cut out the wings, and then we're gonna glue it all on his back to give him some nice little wings. And don't worry, again, I have an extra set that my daughter has. That way she didn't feel like I stole her stuff. Because if I bring it home and it's a toy or girly, you forget about it. She thinks it's hers. So we just add the wings, and then there he is. He's so cute. Isn't he adorable? Little bee gnome. So next project, we are going to take one of these little laundry signs from Dollar Tree, and we're just going to pop off the back of it. Be very careful. There are several pins, nail things in it, so make sure you get those out. I'm just going to pull all of those out of the frame with my, little, I cannot talk, little tweezer plier things. And those are going to be linked for you below. There's a set of 3. They're really great for these little projects when they're really, like fine spots that you're trying to get into. So then once we've gotten rid of all of them, I believe there were like 6 or 7. It's like so funny how Dollar Tree is about securing some things and not others. Because like that, whoop, there it goes. No, I don't even need to use a heat gun. So I'm going to use this printable here. I'm going to have that linked for you below, of where you can go and download it. I'm going to probably have that in a Google Drive folder, so you can go over there, check it out, download it. It's just a printable. This way you can make some projects like I did. I'm going to have as many of them as I can in that same folder. So this was just kind of cute. It was just a, be happy, be kind, be humble. I just really like the idea of it. So I just take a big glue stick, put it on the actual backing. I did sand the backing a little bit just because it had some rough spots from where those nails were holding it in. Then just to put it back in our frame, and just do a little bit of hot glue in the corners, and we're just going to plop it on in there. I liked the color of the outside frame, so I didn't even want to change that. I just loved that darker natural look to it. So I'm just going to get out some extra glue, and here it is, all finished. Again, it'll be linked for you below. Now we're going to do a beaded garland. These are just some round beads. I've already painted them, as you can tell, and I'm going to go through and add some antiquing on the yellow beads. Now, if you want to reduce some of the yellowness, just use the natural wood instead of the yellow. I thought about it, but then I ended up painting it. I've got this little cutout I've got from the farmer's market calendar from Dollar Tree. It's one of the ones off of the back, and I just put it on a little piece of wood. My camera didn't want to like me very much at the moment, so it didn't record it for whatever reason. And I just punched a hole in it, just using a little, Dremel tool to get a hole in there. And then we're just going to feed our twine through it. I was smart about it this time. I made sure I put some tape on the edge of my twine. Left a little bit of slack, otherwise your wood beads don't have anywhere to really move. And then we're going to get another one of those charms, and we're going to use that on there too. So at first I tried just to do some of the antique wax on it, and then I was like, no, it needs a little something else. So I'm going to use a little bit of the wax and a little bit of the mineral colored chalk paint from Waverly, just to give it a little age. I mean, I aged the beads. The bead couldn't be super shiny and new, so I went ahead and did that, and I'm just going to kind of wipe a little bit of away, maybe add a little more antique wax, just kind of work with it until it gets to the point where you like it, or you can leave it completely silver. It's completely up to you. It's your choice. It's your project. So I'll just string that through, and I'll, just do a nice little knot, hold it in place. I doubled it because I wasn't sure how secure one knot would be, so I'll cinch it down and get it kind of in a good spot, trim it off. And here you go, all finished, really cute and pretty, just adding a little more neutral tones, to our abundantly yellow area. So I have this little bee honey dabber that my husband made off his printer again, and I painted it in that same chalk paint and did some black on the edge. And now I'm going to do a little bit of antiquing. Now, initially when I put it in there, I did glue it just to make sure it doesn't come off, and I'm just adding some of that antique wax from Folk Art, or you can use the Waverly one if you have that one. We'll just kind of go over that quite a bit. It just depends on what you want to do. If you want to leave it kind of more like a natural color, that would be really pretty. If you don't have anybody to give you it from a 3D printer, they do make it from Hobby Lobby too. And then as a little added detail, I'm just going to put on this little bee that my husband made, again, from his 3D printer, and I hand painted. It's just a cute little touch, just to kind of finish that one off. Now we're going to take this ball mason jar, just a small one, cover it in, you guessed it, yellow paint. And now we're going to add some extra details. I took this is kind of like the leftovers from one of the stencils earlier, as you can tell, since it's all black. And I'm just going to put it in just a couple of places, trying to make sure that it's really adhered to it. And I just went over it with some black paint. I messed up in a spot, but that's okay because we're going to antique it. So I'm just going to take my finger sander again and just kind of give a little bit of distressing and kind of give it a little spots here and there. And we'll go over this whole thing with the antique wax, kind of going with the same look as I gave the honey dauber. Honey dauber. You guys will have to tell me, what exactly is that little thing called? I was like, oh, it's a honeycomb, but it's not a honeycomb because that's the little thing the bees live in. So let me know down in the description box or down in the comments if you know what it's called. Next, we're going to take that black cotton twine again, and I'm just going to put it all around the top part. I thought about painting like stripes on there, but I'm not capable of making straight lines, especially not free-handed straight lines. I'm shocked I was able to do it at all on that little bee that I have on there, on the little honey dauber thing. And even with painter's tape, I was like, this is just not going to happen today, so let's not try. So I was like, well, if I add a little bit of black twine to it, that'll kind of look like a stripe, like a bee. So I was like, hey, that's kind of cute. And then I just did a quick little finger bow. I would give you like advice on how to do it, but it would probably be horrible advice because I'm really bad at doing bows. So I would say your best luck is to find another person to show you how to do it because it's definitely not me. So I'm going to just trim off the edges. I didn't want a tail on it. And here it is, all finished. Super cute. All right, on to our last project. This is from Hobby Lobby, this little rolling pin. I'm going to cover it with the white, or not the white, goodness gracious, with the yellow and the black. And then I'm going to add my little decal on there that just is a bee happy. And I just thought it was the sweetest little thing. So I'm going to just add that on there. It's just, you know, the happy with a little swiggle and the bee, and it's just so stinking cute. I don't know what it is about bees with me this year. I just think they're all so cute. So we're just going to add that onto our little rolling pin. And I know they make these in other places too. So sometimes you can get them a little bit bigger as well. Just kind of depends on what you're going for. These might end up on like a tiered tray or just as a shelf sitter. I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure where they're going in my house, but they're going somewhere. Here it is all finished up. It's just super cute. I'm starting off with this beautiful like rack drawer thing. I actually found that baby in the garbage like several months ago. It's been waiting for me to do something with it. So I'm going to tear out all that wood. I still have it. I haven't fully decided if I'm going to keep it all or not. A lot of it is rotting. Some of it has bugs. So I'm not real sure yet. But what we're going to do is we're going to build some stuff for that. And off in the background, if you can kind of see, is my girl Gizzy. I'm just showing you here. I am going to pull off those leaves and the grapes that you can't really see. I'm holding my phone, so it's kind of hard for me to get a good shot of it, but I'm just bending them to the point where they break because we're going to put something else on top of that. Now I'm just going to do a quick little sanding of everything and just any loose pieces that we kind of just get off of there. And I wanted just to show you real quick. Here's my puppy is coming up. The reason I'm bringing her up, this was a little bit right around a week or so before she passed. So with our table, I'm just taking a piece of plywood that I think I probably picked up in the garbage, to be honest, and I am going to just mark where I want to make my cuts. And that was not an easy process, let me tell you, because I don't like the table saw. My husband wasn't feeling well this day, so I was using my miter saw to do it. It wasn't pretty, but I got it done. You'll see, if you can see on the right side, it's kind of a little wonky of the cut. It didn't matter because that's not the side that you're going to see. It's not going to be up close and personal. So I did one full coat of paint with the Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint, and then I went ahead and sanded over it all because this is going to look super distressed, and I'm so excited about how it turns out. I am taking a little bit of wax. Now this one is the DIY brand wax. This, I believe, is the dark. Yes, this is the dark wax, and I'm going to just brush this all over just so we can kind of tone down a little bit of that white. Once I'm done with that, I am going to take this transfer from Chalk Couture. I am a Chalk Couture designer, so if you want to check some of them out, I'm going to have my links all down below for you. It's in my little link tree, and you can check out all the different things. This one is rather new still. I believe it is currently available, and it's gorgeous. I absolutely love this, and it wasn't sticking as much as I wanted it to, and so instead of just kind of letting it go, I ended up taking it and putting it down a couple of times again, as you can see, to line it up just right. But I do spray it down with that stencil adhesive, so if you have any that are like that, that is a good option for you. I'm going to take the color Storm. Now, mind you, when you're seeing this, you'll see it, why I'm telling you this. This particular one is on the drier side. If you want a much more solid application of it, you're going to want to make sure it's a little bit more liquidy than that. And this is my first time using this little handled guy. It was interesting. It's definitely one of those things you kind of got to work on. You have to work on the technique of it. But anyways, I'm going to start to smooth that through my transfer, and then I'm going to peel it back, and you'll notice it's got a super distressed look. I am completely fine with that. If you do not want something like that, you are going to want to make sure your paste is a little bit more watery. This one I'm opening right now is a brand new jar, but I do really want that more patchy effect, if that makes any sense to you. I want this patchy, very not consistently covered kind of thing. So what I'm doing is I'm just going through, and if I miss some spots that don't have it applied, that is fine with me. I just want it to be very sporadic in where it's patchy, and then now you'll see on this peel, it's a little bit more covered. And then I'm going to take the transfer without washing it and place it right back down. Now, because this part of the transfer is where I'm spraying it with that adhesive right directly on the board so that it'll stick, which isn't the problem of it sticking. The problem, which you'll see in a second, is that I used that really dry paste. It wasn't dry where it won't work, but it was a little more dry than it should have been. And what it's doing now is, one, I can't see where the heck I've played it, where I laid it down, and two, it's dried some in the screen. So it's not going to give as much coverage. Some of it I'm okay with, and I end up doing is I'm going to just replace it. After I wash it, I replace it over it. You'll see, like, there's a couple spots that are super sparse that you can't really see the tile, so I do end up going back over it, and it's super easy just to reline it up. See, I just touched up a couple little spots. Now I'm going to take this Shipwrecked one. This is also from DIY, and it's a beautiful, like, patinaed tealish color. And I'm just going to lightly put that all over. I kind of want to bring back some of that same coloring that the iron metal piece had. It's not iron, but you know what I mean. The metal piece that this is going to go on, I wanted to bring some of that back in. So I will just brush that all over, and then if there's any areas that feel like there's too much teal or too much white, I'll take that same dark wax and go over that. So it's like adding all of these layers is what's going to give you the really cool effects. Once the tabletop's done, I am making these little birds. They are an IOD mold that I actually used some resin in. It was my first time trying out resin. And then I painted it in this chalk paint mineral from Waverly. And I'm going to go over everything with my black wax. This is the same DIY brand, but with the black wax. I will brush it on and then I will brush it off. Now, a friend of mine who is our co-host today on this very wonderful video playlist is Jamie from Simple Roots Simple Living. She's been like my sounding board for this entire video. Absolutely everything I feel like I did, I was like, hey, does this look okay? Hey, do you like this? So she has some resin stuff for you today too. So definitely go make sure you check her out. And like I said, just you apply it, then you brush off the excess. And that way you can kind of build it up if you want to, or you can just work with, a little bit at a time. It makes it super easy. I will say when you're using this wax, make sure it is a paintbrush that you are okay with having it on the wax. It's super, super hard to wash off of the paintbrush. So this paintbrush is kind of like my DIY wax paintbrush now because it's the wax is not coming off of it. So I will do that with all of these little birds. And then what I'll do is I'm going to attach them to the top part of this metal guide. First, we're going to attach our tabletop, and I'm just going to place it in. See, it fits just perfectly, snug as a bug in a rug. And at first I was like, okay, well, I need to put in some holes because it isn't going to just go easily. It did have a piece of wood on where this is sitting right now, so there is some little holes from where the screws went through. So it's fixed because that seems like a dangerous thing to have just hanging out. I tried the marker, it did not work. The holes are too narrow. So instead, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a little bit of light colored paint in a very small, that looks so amazing though, with mouth open. Oh my goodness. Anyways, I'm taking that skewer and I'm taking, it's very narrow little skewer with the paint on it. I'll wipe away the excess, and that is going to give me my holes where I need to drill my pilot holes. Wow. Those facial expressions, guys. That was a look of just complete and total determination, and we're just gonna go ahead and move on now. Anyways, I like to wipe off any excess that I got on the metal part because even though they're small skewers, it's, you're putting it through a tiny little hole upside down, and it's just, yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna take the board off and I'm gonna wrap a little bit of tape. I cannot remember if this was Jamie who gave me this little hint or if my husband told me to do it. I don't remember. Anyways, I'm going to just kind of check to see how far down is too far. I want to make sure that I'm not putting it in too far down. So I'll add just a little bit of painter's tape to it. And then I will put that into my screw gun and we'll just drill down our pilot holes. And once we have those, easy enough, we'll flip it back around and attach it back to the top of the board or the top of the tabletop area. I don't know. And here is how the finished tabletop looks. I'll give you a look at the whole thing in just a minute. Well, this time around, I have this piece of wood. It was part of something. I actually got it in Savannah, and this one, what we're going to do is we're going to make it into a sign. Now, it had like table leg posts kind of thing. Originally, I was just going to take off the ends, and I was like looking at it and it wasn't looking quite right. So what I end up doing is I cut off that hole, that like little slot in the middle, and I'm going to glue them back together because I loved that that little edge, that little detail in it that's kind of like that line. It's actually in like a little groove. So I was like, well, I don't want to lose that. And just to, cut off the end, it looks kind of funny. So I'm just gluing it back together with some Star Bond adhesive. This is the thicker formula. And I'm going to spray the accelerator and put them right back together. This is going to get painted. It was super pretty when I sanded it off, but I decided it needed to be painted instead. But don't worry, we're going to distress it enough where you see a lot of that gorgeous wood detail. Don't mind my head and my curly hair all in the way. I'm going to add some of that Star Bond adhesive. It also works as kind of like a filler. So I'm just going to fill some of that in. It didn't work out as well as I had hoped. So I'll fill some of it in, and then I'm going to turn back around and also fill some of it in with some just regular old wood filler. once eventually it's going to be done. And this is just going to help make sure it stays nice and well put together, and it's not going to go anywhere. We don't want it to break. That would be awful. So like I said, just a little bit of wood filler, just smooth it all into that crack. And again, it's not going to hurt anything because like I said, I am going to be painting over this. I am trying to avoid that little groove. That way we don't end up kind of losing out on that detail. So now it is painted and distressed, just like I did the first board, and I'm going to go through the same way I did on the first part, was that same DIY wax, just to give it a little bit something more, tone down the white, bring out a little bit more distressing. Not that it looks like it's not distressed, but you know what I mean. I'm going to come in with another of my Chalk Couture transfers. This one is a pretty nice one because you get these 4 different herbs and they are all in one pack. It's on just a little 8x10 sized one, so reasonably priced. And I do the fuzzing on these because they are brand new, and that's just going to reduce some of the stickiness and keep it from, sticking too hard, make it a lot easier to pull up and all of that. I'm going to take the color Eucalyptus, and I am just going to go ahead and smooth that all in with my squeegee, the name of the herb print itself, and it's going to be super, super cute. I'm going to remove them one at a time instead of like doing all of the chalking and then removing them, because if you did that, you have to run the risk of it drying in the screen. Now this one is a little bit of an older paste as well, so it's on the drier side, but since I am moving so quickly on it, it's actually going to be just fine. So keep that in mind. If you have some paste that's on the drier side, you either have to move quickly or you have to add some water. If you do add water, make sure it's distilled water, because you do not want anything to grow in your paste. That would be gross. All right, once those are down, we're going to do a little exploring with something new. New to me. So they do make some fonts, some letters and stuff. It's not my favorite. I'll be really honest. It's not my favorite thing. I, in the future, would probably just print something up on my Cricut. But right now, my Cricut and I are having a bit of a tiff, and we're not working, and we need to work on our relationship. I'm going to take Storm, and I'm going to go ahead and run that through my screen, and you'll notice there's like some little like half circles up at the top and bottom. That is to help you align it. See what I mean? Like you get a little half a circle, and then you line it up with your other letter. And the thing I don't love about it is the way it is, you have to have either wax it or put something down to keep it from the sticky part going onto the previously used letter. Yes, letter. So like I said, it's not my favorite thing. If you do not have a Cricut and you don't have any other method of making lettering for something, like if you wanted a customized word that isn't offered, then this is an option. Like I said, not my favorite, so I'm not going to show you anymore because like I said, it's not my favorite, it's not my recommendation. If you have a Cricut, that's easier, or if you want these big chunky letters, you can also just buy the big sticker letters from, Dollar Tree or Hobby Lobby or wherever. I'm going to, of course, go over it with a little bit more wax, because if you don't add wax to everything, can you really call it a farmhousey style video? No, I don't think so. Anyways, I'm just, like I said, going in, adding in a lot of that detail. I do have that same teal kind of thing on it too. And here's how that turned out. And I did add those birds to the top. It didn't show it to you because I just literally glued them on. But here is this whole rack. We are going to be using it for drying out herbs, putting sunscreen on the top so we can find it easily when we're outside. And I think it just turned out super, super pretty. All right, on to our last one. This little stool actually came from my aunt's house. She recently passed, and it was outside. She had it out on like her patio area, and I'm like, you know what? This is a good piece for a patio. I am taking some of the Star Bond glue, and I'm going to try to fix up this crack because it goes all the way through. And I do one layer down first and let it kind of seep in a little bit, and then I'm going to put another layer down. I was going to clamp it, but my clamps were not big enough, and I was like, you know what, that's fine. It does kind of firm up pretty quickly, so It'll work just fine. I'm gonna just make sure there isn't any like big globs of the glue coming over. So we're just gonna do a quick little sand. I have already sanded the whole piece because it was pretty gross. I am just doing a quick coat of the same Rust-Oleum white chalk paint. I let it dry. And now I'm going in with another coat, a pretty thick coat. And I am taking some IOD paint inlay and I am just adding it on, and I'm even rolling it over onto the sides so that image, that print, will kind of transfer some of it onto the side as well. This was my first time using this paint inlay, so this one is a little rough. There's a lot of texture on this little stool as well, so keep that in mind if you get some of this paint inlay stuff. Basically all it is paint pigment on the paper, and you're transferring that paint pigment onto whatever you painted. That was a lot of painting. It's a lot easier than it seems. A friend of mine, CJ, actually did a few projects recently. I'll link her channel down below if you want to check it out. She had a few different things she tried out with it, so definitely check that out too. I got some more stuff coming up with it too. Like I said, this was my first go of it, but you cut out all of the design, the paper, and whatever that you're going to use, get it where however you want it to line up. Like these sheets do actually line up. And I'm just trimming off, if you have any excess, you trim off the excess, that kind of thing. And you can see they do match up. All of the sheets are made like that they actually do match up. I will add a thick coat of paint. I like to spritz a little bit of water there first. This paint is probably a little on the drier side just because it was from outside. And I'm going to do all of those little cutouts as well. So I'm going to try to get a little bit of that design to transfer in that middle part as well, just because it looks cool, right? It's just something to try. Again, thicker coat of paint is better in this instance. I will get it nice and lined up, and then you'll spritz it with some water, really press it down. So see, I'm pressing it down, and in a moment, you can either spritz it with some water, or you can take a damp paper towel. I'm gonna go ahead and tear out a couple little holes in the middle so I can fold them down into the little center slots so that they'll transfer on there as well. And again, this is optional, depends on what you're making, what kind of projects you can come up with this. This is a really cool product, I have to say. I'm going to leave the shop that I get all of my IOD stuff from down in the description box. It's from a lady named Kimberly. She's in St. Augustine. She is the sweetest. She's got lots of fun stuff to check out, other than just IOD too. All right, so once the paper has dried completely, you want to give it probably a good hour or so. Now it's completely dried. I am going to take some water, and I am just going to spritz it all down. And when you're re-wetting it, you've already transferred the paint, like to the fresh coat of paint that's underneath. I'll have to think of better descriptive words for some of this. But then you're going to actually peel back the paper. Now you'll see it is pretty splotchy. A lot of the reasoning is either I didn't put enough paint on it, or there's a lot of texture on this piece, which there is. This has a lot of texture to it, so I'm not real worried about it. I knew I wanted it to have this more distressed look anyways, so I'm good. You can actually also use these pieces, these paint inlays, see how there's still stuff on it as I'm peeling back the paper? You can use it multiple times. I think they say like 2 or 3. So once I was done with that, I was like, okay, great. It looks like the legs are too dark. So I'm going to just take some watered down Rust-Oleum chalk paint, linen color paint, and I'm going to wipe some of it on, wipe it off. I'm going to do that probably a good solid like 10 or 15 minutes till I get it to the point where I'm happy. I did, however, because I didn't really realize I was going to do this part, I actually did a coat of wax on top of the legs right there. That is why it is like really not soaking into anything. Yeah, that wasn't a good thing, but it's okay. So I end up working through all of the legs, the bottom, the whole thing. And then I'm like, well, let's go ahead and blend some of it in. So I just take a sanding block and you just blend in anywhere where it looks like you have drips, or if it's too solid, you got to get the headshot in there. And once I get to that point where I'm happy, I will be finished. Here's how it turned out. It's on my little patio with one of my Christmas cactuses. I tell you what, that Christmas cactus, all I have done is neglect it. And that still lives. I've got a wood sign that I picked up from Target. I think I got it on clearance. I gave it a full coat of some chalk paint, some chalkboard paint from Dollar Tree. And now I am taking this Chalk Couture transfer. This is the club transfer for the month of May, so you can still get it if you're watching this within the first couple of days of the video. And I did spray it with a little bit of some spray adhesive. It is specifically made for stencils. I like to use it on my Chalk Couture stuff when it's kind of lost some of its stickiness. I'm taking the color Bumblebee and the color Meadow. I also will use the color Dune, and you'll see that in just a minute. We're going to take some of this Meadow. It is like a super, super bright green. It is definitely a Kelly green, grass green, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just going to smooth that all through those little leafy bits on the top and the bottom. And those are, I guess, supposed to be like lemon blossoms. I don't really know. I don't have a lemon tree. I should though. I've seen some actually grow in Florida. If I have any green thumb people, let me know if they grow in Florida. So once I've gotten those top and bottoms, I'm going to do a little peel back. When I'm doing this, what it's going to do is it's going to obviously peel back the part of the transfer that I just chalked on, but it's going to keep it from drying in the screen because these are silk screen. So if you don't do stuff like that, you're going to run the risk of having it dry in the screen because they dry super quick. If you've got a less detailed transfer or you're using just one color, you don't have to worry about it. But since I'm doing multiple colors and multiple spaces, this is just a good, it's a good trick to do to make sure that you are going to get the desired look. That one right there that I'm using is the color Dune. So I'm going to use that on some parts that I kind of wanted to be a little bit more subdued because I am going to use that Bumblebee yellow, and that is going to be super bright, but it's so, so pretty. You're going to see in just a minute how cool it looks. Now I will then go in with the Bumblebee. I'm going to do that for the ice cold and the lemonade part. I'm actually going to skip the lemons on here, and don't worry, there will be plenty of lemons. I'm going to work that Bumblebee through this whole part of the screen. That is a super, super yellow. If you want more subtle colors, there's definitely a different color palette you can pick up as far as the colors from Chalk Couture. That would probably be like Sunnyside for a yellow, or you could do Eucalyptus for a green if you want more subdued. And here's how it looks all with all of the chalking done. But what I have here now is the ribbon. This is a Dollar Tree ribbon. It's a farmhouse ribbon, I believe is what they're calling it. And I just basically tied it with the knots on the front side. I thought that was just a cute little touch. And because I didn't know if I made it enough knots to keep it from slipping out of the holes, I went ahead and just added a little bit of hot glue. I did it on kind of like the bottom part of the knot, and now I'm going to do it to the top part of the holes on the back side, just to make it a little bit more secure. I felt like I was less worried about it going somewhere. Now I'm going to keep it off the table because I am not 100% sure that my glue is ready to go yet. And I just did a little shoestring bow with that same ribbon just to put up here in the corner. And I'm going to also kind of hot glue down the tails a little bit to give them a little bit of like a more desired look. I don't want them just hanging down because I didn't want them to cover up my actual words. So I'm just giving them a little bend, and that way it'll be super, super cute. Again, if you're interested in this, check my link below. It is in the description box for my club members if you're interested. And of course, this is how it turned out. It's so cute. I love it. I'm going to use that same transfer on this one. I've got just a glass jar. I want to say it's probably from like around Christmas time from Target again. This just happened to be what I had that I thought would look cute. So I did not do the fuzzing. Usually you will see it, me fuzz the transfer first, but since I've used this transfer a few times already, you don't really have to do that every time. And what I've got it on right now is glass. If you have a brand new transfer and you're putting it on glass, make sure you fuzz a lot because otherwise you run the risk of it really sticking and really stretching when you take it off. I'm going in with the color Black Velvet, and I am just going to do the words on this part, just the Ice Cold Lemonade, and you'll see in a second why I'm doing it in black. And if you wanted it more of a subtle tone to it, you can also do it in the color Storm, which is a dark gray. Really, really pretty color. It's one of my favorites of the colors that they have. But again, same kind of concept, just running it all the way through the silk screen. You put it on and you remove any of the excess, and you put the excess back in the jar. Now I am doing this with the paste, which is washable, because this way if I want to switch it out, I can. There's not a big deal. If you want to do something on glass or ceramic and make it permanent, you heat set it. I don't know exactly how you do the heat setting for the glass. I know usually with ceramic you put it in the oven, but if you're interested, let me know. I can probably find some info for you. But here's the peel. It turned out so cute. I have a little spot that is needing a little touch up, so I'm just going to take this little tool and clean up in that couple little spots that ended up having some kind of come outside of that transfer. I don't love chalk for like rounded surfaces, so I'm really happy with how this one turned out. They don't do the best on rounded surfaces, but this one, I guess, since it's not like super circular, I don't know. I'm not really sure. For some reason though, it worked really well on this one. Some instances it's not as great. I took a chance and it paid off because I love this thing. So now, of course, we're going to throw some lemons in here. I've got a little bit of a variety. I've got some big ones, some small ones, medium ones. I think that I got maybe like the large ones from Dollar Tree, or maybe not. If they didn't come from Dollar Tree, they came from Hobby Lobby. Check them out. You can get them when they're half price, and it's a pretty decent pricing when they're half off. Same ribbon as before. I'm just going to put it around the top part with a really cute little shoestring bow. And I always struggle with my bows, so if it's not a great bow, I'm sorry guys. This is what I'm working with, you know. And maybe someday, I will learn to do a little bit better on my bows. Today is not that day though. But these were the same transfer, so you really get a lot of different uses out of them. And in my description box down below is all the link to go to my link tree if you want to check it out. And if you like this one, make sure that you're checking it out before the end of May. After that, it will be gone. And here it is, all finished up. Again, super cute. I love this one. I have a small wood cutting board. I've already done a coat of linen white chalk paint from Rust-Oleum. And here I have a graphic that I printed out on tissue paper. I love printing on tissue paper. I have a video, if I can remember, I will link it for you below, of how I show in a video like the full process of setting up to actually print on tissue paper. And both of these graphics are from Creative Fabrica. I'll have that listed for you down below too. And I will try my best to find those specific ones. I think they're from the same pack. So you can get Creative Fabrica for like $1 for the first month. So what I do is I just go in and I download like everything my heart's desires, or save a bunch of it. And then when you're ready to do the downloads, do your 1 month for $1 and cancel it before that month is up. Otherwise it does start to charge you the full price. I think it's like $19 a month, which isn't awful. But anyways, I've already done a coat of Mod Podge underneath this tissue paper, and I put a piece of parchment paper down, and then I did basically ironed on top of it. I just used my mini press from Cricut, and I came to the conclusion, 1, I'm out of frame, which I'm sorry, and 2, that I have the bottom part was doubled up and I didn't notice it, so it had like a weird look to it. If I hadn't done it, it would have been perfect. It didn't even have any wrinkles. So, oh well, things happen, right? Everybody makes mistakes, and this was it. I was like, oh, it turned out so great if I didn't do that. But oh well. So I do put a little bit of Mod Podge in between those layers, because that's why it looked funky. And then I'll go in with my little mini press and kind of smooth it out again. So close. The struggle, guys, the struggle today. Anyways, I just go over it with the mini press. Anytime you do that, it's going to help you kind of avoid some of those wrinkles. And I taped it down with some painter's tape just to try and keep it from moving around. I had my fan on and it was blowing all over the place. I'm going to take some of the antique wax from Waverly. Nope, this one's still folk art. I'm working on the same container of folk art antique wax that I have had for probably probably close to 2 years. We're getting really close to the 2-year mark, and this bottle is still going strong. Don't worry, I have a backup of I think I have like 2 bottles of Waverly as a backup or something, so I'm set on my antique wax. But I'm gonna just kind of go around and give it a nice little antiquing. I did it a little heavier on the bottom, that way it was way more, it looked way more not obvious, way more, I don't know. I can't think of my word today. I did it because it would look more intentional. There we go. It looked more intentional, all of that antiquing in the bottom. Not that I messed it up when I glued it down. It's okay. It happens to us all. And then I'm taking a little piece of sandpaper. I think this is like a 220 grit, and I am just removing all of the excess. I think the sandpaper has like almost no grit left to it. So it's working for me though. And now that I've done that, I'm going to go through, make sure I've gotten any little pieces that kind of stuck to it because it did have Mod Podge on it. And I will go and distress all around the outside edge as well because you want it to give it that nice kind of overall look. Don't worry, right now you see just a blank handle with, you know, a line where the tissue paper was. I'm going to fix that too. I am going to wrap it with some really cute black and white twine. We're doing all like lemons and black and white and gingham, and it's just farmhouse beautifulness. So here you see it with just a really cute little bow at the top. I thought it was just a nice, cute touch. On to our next one. Now, this one is part of like a little kit that Chocator does. You can easily do other things to get the same effect if you do not want to purchase the whole kit. The whole kit is meant to make like a garland that you string, like a string garland. Is that probably the right way to say it? Call it? I don't know. Anyways, it comes with a lot of these little lemons and the 2 different patterns and some ribbons and all kinds of things. Here's an alternative. I'll use that guy in a few minutes though. That one is just from Woodpeckers, and it is a thick, chunky lemon. You could always like drill a hole in it and kind of get the same idea. You could easily like Mod Podge a printed napkin or tissue paper on top of it to get kind of the same effect if you're not doing, you know, if you're not in love with the Chocator idea, which if you're not, that's okay. If you are, I'm here for you. I love it, so I still am doing it. I'm taking a little bit of their surface wax and giving it a quick coat, which I will find out in a minute that was the wrong side. That is one thing I'm not loving when they do these kits, is there's always a right side and a wrong side, and they have it in their mind that certain ones go with certain ones. Like I wanted to use the just slightly distressed print for the like the leaves. It didn't go with the florally one, the polka dotted one with the floral, and I didn't like that one, so I am painting it green, but you'll see that in a minute. But once I've gotten my everything kind of cut out, and they'll show you if it needs to be cut apart, there's lines that are there for you to cut, super easy. I do my fuzzing, which is basically just going to add a little bit of fuzz to the transfer, make it to where it doesn't stick quite so much. And here's my moment when I'm realizing, oh, that was the wrong side. There's a right side and there's a wrong side, so be aware of that. So I'll take my transfer and line it all up, easy as can be. If you have some that are a little harder, you can always line it up upside down, like where you're actually placing the surface on top of the sticky part. I'm going to take my same bumblebee that I used on our very first project, and I'm just going to take my mini squeegee and push that all the way through the silk screen transfer. It couldn't be easier. It's like buttering toast. It's super easy. Anybody can do it. If you have like arthritis or have some kind of dexterity problem and like you can't do stuff with Cricut or things, this is probably a really good alternative for you. If you're interested, let me know and I'd be happy to kind of help point you in a direction. And like I said, I did paint the top part of it. You'll see it in a few minutes when we're all finished, and I painted that in the Waverly chalk paint in the color Fern. And now I've got these beads. I did some wood beads that I painted black, and then as soon as I was done painting them, I was like, wait a second. I have buffalo check ribbons, or not ribbons, buffalo check beads. I'm going to use those. So I did those in kind of like a little pattern, 2 of the buffalo check, 1 of the black. So cute. Love it. I'm going to just take some of this cotton twine from Dollar Tree and wrap it around my hand a whole bunch of times, and I'm going to do an awful job at making a garland, or making a tassel. I'm not even going to show it to you. That's how bad it is. It gets there. I mean, it gets done. So that's a plus. But I am not the one to teach you how to do it. Same with this moment right here, me attaching it to the little lemon. Again, still not the best moment of mine. It's okay though. So I knew going into it that I was going to use those holes to attach it, and also that I was going to run some ribbon through it to give it kind of like a little bow, just to make it super cute. Everything in here I felt like came out so cute, if I do say so myself. But I'm going to just run that through that other hole. Use a skewer if you ever have problems doing those kind of things. I can never get them to work, so why not just make stuff work for you? I'll make just, again, a shoestring bow. Super cute. I think I had to do it once or twice. I don't know what it is up with me in this ribbon today. So I'll get it to the point where I like it, and then I will go ahead and trim it off, giving it some really cute little dovetails. For the longest time, I'm not even joking, I called it ducktails. In videos, probably towards the beginning part of my YouTube life, I called them ducktails. And all of a sudden I saw somebody wrote it somewhere, like in one of the chats on Instagram or something. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. I was calling it a ducktail. Although when I first started trying to make them, they ended up looking like ducktails. So it probably worked out. I would always cut them at the wrong angle. I'm adding a little bit of hot glue on the back of the lemon just to keep the string part to go in the direction that I want it to. And once I do that, I'll just hot glue down my ribbon a little bit because the little tails were just not cooperating. And that is about done. So cute. I think this might be one of my favorite parts. I'm not sure. So to make sure we do some non-chalk stuff, don't worry guys. I have this from Target. I'm using a lot of Target stuff today. I do unscrew it from the part on the top, and I did cover it in Mod Podge, let it dry completely, and now I've got this napkin from Dollar Tree. It is just a big old lemon. I'll take my parchment paper. I really should have taped it down as well because my fan was on and it was blowing all over the place, and I was trying to get it all lined up. And this is the moment right here when I should have just taped it, because I was like, well, I'm just gonna wing it. If it's a little off, it's a little off. It ends up being a little off, but that's okay. It's gonna be mine. It's gonna be in my house, so I will survive. Anyways, parchment paper on it, smooth around with either an iron or a heat press or whatever. This is again just my little mini heat press. I think I usually set this up to two or three, either like the middle or the hottest. I haven't had any problems doing it on that where it's like it doesn't get too hot, you know what I mean? On the lower side, I only use the lower side if I'm gonna like iron out my wrinkles in like the tissue paper before I print on it. I will do that a lot of the time, and that's when I'll use it on the lowest. And even then I don't have it. I have it on I don't have the parchment paper in between. So anyways, sorry, chatty here. Here's how it turned out though. Super cute too. Everything is super cute today. I hope you guys agree. I have these little jars, it's like little milk bottle-y kind of things. I think they came from Hobby Lobby. I've definitely seen them at Dollar Tree as well. And when I printed the stuff for the cutting board on the tissue paper, I printed a couple of extras as well. A couple of extra little lemon slices so that I could add them to this cute little bottle. And I believe it's just spray painted white, so it's super smooth already. And I'll just take a little bit of water on the edge of a paintbrush and tear out the lemon. I'm just going to show you adding one of them. I believe, end up adding 2 halves and a whole lemon. A slice, not a whole lemon, but a whole lemon slice. I think you know what I mean. And that way it kind of gives it a little something extra to the bottle, but at the same time it's not like completely covering it. You could totally do a pattern on it. That'd be so cute too. And I will just lay down some Mod Podge, pick up my lemon, and then smooth it down with my paintbrush with a little bit of Mod Podge on it as well. It's going to help kind of get it nice and smooth. And this one right here that first one turned out like picture perfect. It couldn't have been better. I did it a few other times. It didn't turn out as good, so that's why I showed you the good one, only the good one. I'll add a little bit of antique wax, up to you, totally don't have to do that. depending on what your look is. And I don't have one, and I totally need one. I need like a yellow and white striped straw to stick out of that. If that isn't the sweetest little thing in the world, I might have to check my Dollar Tree and see if I can find it. Isn't that sad? I want to buy a whole pack of straws just to do that on this one project. I think that would be adorable. Let me know if you've seen them in your stores. If everybody tells me they've never seen such a thing, I probably won't find it. It probably doesn't exist. But maybe I'll have to make one or something. Get like just a regular white one and make one myself or something. I use that same twine that I used on the cutting board though, just to kind of tie everything together, pun intended. And it's so adorable. I think this one turned out really cute too. And we're on to the last one. I have this little lemon chunk that I showed you before. I have already coated it in actually the bumblebee chalk paste that I used, just so it would kind of keep the same colors. I just take a little bit of antique wax just to go around the perimeter of it, just to give it kind of more shape, more definition. And then that's pretty much the extent of that one. That's all it took. I know that one was super quick. We have one of the arch window things from Dollar Tree. I just went ahead and took off that little plaque part in the front, and we're going to disassemble it. I don't know if you knew this, but they come apart. I found that out when I was watching Sammy from Unicorn Dust Designs, and I was like, what? They come apart? And she was like, oh yeah, this way you can use it, you know, the backside if you don't need the backside for your project. I was like, well, that's awesome. I'm going to use the backside for the back, but that's okay. First thing I'm going to do is just kind of give it a quick little distressing, a little detail to it. I want to show off some of that wood grain, that faux wood grain in the frame. We're just using Waverly chalk paint in mineral, and I'm just going to go through it pretty quick here. Not too much terrible detail. What's nice, since it's so plasticky, is if you put a little too much on it, you can just rub it away. It works out really nicely. Once we're done with that, we're going to take this lace. I used it in, I think, almost every project. I am just going to hot glue. It's almost got a little bit of like a thicker part at the top. And I'm by no means a lace aficionado, so they may have specific names for different parts of this. And if they do, I'm sorry, I don't know them. So I'm just going to hot glue the top part of it first. And what we'll be doing is keeping this all as like one panel on the bottom, and I'll show you how we're going to go about the rest of it. I'll trim off the side because this is obviously going to end up with the backing back on it, like I mentioned. And now what we'll do is we are just going to glue down the bottom part. And I use my lovely little spatula, and here it is. It's finished, the bottom. I'll glue down the sides a little bit just to kind of keep it taut as much as you can. And now we're going to do just the little middle-ish part. And for this one, I'm going to start at the bottom and then work my way up. Except I'm going to do each one of these individual cutouts separately, you know, like I'm going to do one at a time. It didn't work right, like, you know what I mean? It wasn't going to work out trying to do like a whole row of them. Once those ones are done, we are going to do a whole panel on the top. It's just the way it kind of worked out with the lace that I had, and to do this, I'm going to start in the middle just to make sure I don't end up with tons on one side or not the other. And I imagine you know what I'm talking about by that, but so I'm going to do the bottoms of each little opening first, and then I'm going to work my way over. I don't know if this was the easiest way to do it, but it seemed to me like it was going to be the easiest, so it's just how I went. And when you're doing this, try your best not to have a lot of like overpour of hot glue. I had a couple spots on it that definitely poured a little over. You can't see it too much because of the coloration of, you know, the hot glue compared to the whitish color of the, you know, of the actual little frame part. I'm going to call it that, at least, the little frame part. Then we're going to trim around, of course, because obviously you don't need that much and you're not going to see it anyways. So we are done with that part. And see, I had a couple little spots of glue that I wasn't liking the way it looked, so I just added a little more glue and then added a couple little pearl beads. They're actually off of like a string that I used through a couple of different projects today, and I wanted to kind of tie a couple of the pieces in together. Now that same lace, I think for the whole project, I had like half a yard of lace. It's not even like I had that much. I have one of these little keys. I got it, I think, from Joann's. It's like one of those Tim Horton. I could be saying that wrong. I think it's Tim Horton though. And I just tie the lace on there, and then I'm going to take one of my pieces from Totally Dazzled that is, we're going to be doing a giveaway for, so stay tuned on that part. But I'm just going to glue that onto the lace, and then we're going to glue the key and the little dazzled brooch on the front as well. And I thought it was looking a little plain and needed a little more, so I added another key. Just, a nice big glob of glue. I'll kind of just, fashion it as I think works best. And here it is, all finished. Hey everyone, I really hope that you enjoyed all of those projects today. Don't forget to check me out on all of my social media, and remember to check out these videos in case you are interested in some more. And I'll see you next time.